There's that saying where it's like 90% of your clients will be amazing, lovely, never argue about price, and they'll just do everything. They'll book, they'll pre-book, all the things. And there's 10% that will drive you crazy.
Right.
And that 10% will take up 90% of your time.
Oh, yeah.
And I think this is just like the perfect example of that.
This episode is brought to you by Boulevard, the industry's first and only client experience platform. Boulevard is designed for the self-care community, helping businesses like yours unlock revenue, maximize efficiency, and deliver seamless experiences you and your clients will love. See for yourself why so many brands are making the switch. Head over to joinblvd.com/podcast to see a demo and get 10% off just for listening to today's podcast. Make your best investment yet. Go to joinblvd.com/podcast to learn more.
Hey everyone, we are super excited to be here today and just do a fun little reaction episode. I think everyone likes to talk about some of the content that's out there, and I know everyone finds a good "Am I the asshole?" story super riveting. So we have a couple that we're gonna discuss that are based around hair salons, med spas, you know, all that fun stuff. So excited to see what you guys think. You ready?
Let's get it.
Yeah. Awesome. So here's our first one, okay? So I, 22 female, have been seeing the same hairstylist, Talia, for a few years now. And because we always chat during my appointment, she knows the basics of my life. I've always had long hair, sometimes going a bit shorter. Shortest has been to my shoulders, adding bangs, adding layers, etc. Nothing crazy. Well, I had an appointment yesterday and I decided to go for a super short pixie cut. She shared the picture, which I showed everyone prior to this. We'll put it up for everyone. And my hairstylist was shocked. But then she made a joke like, "Oh no, this isn't breakup hair, is it?" I was weirded out by that, but I confirmed that yes, actually my boyfriend of a year and I broke up a few weeks ago, but it had nothing to do with my hair. She then tells me that she really doesn't want to cut my hair short because my hair is so nice. Her words, "I really don't care." And it would be a waste to cut it. She then remembers that I'm going to my sister's wedding and I'm going to be her maid of honor in a couple months, and that I'll have a graduation in the spring. And she said I'll regret having short hair in those photos. Honestly, I was pretty offended at that. As a grown woman, whether or not I regret a hairstyle down the line is none of her business, as long as she does the cut well. She told me the shortest that she would go was a long bob, and so I told her that I would be leaving, and that's not what I want. She tried to get me to pay the cancellation fee, as she was now going to lose the 2-hour that she had booked. I told her that wasn't my problem, and I left anyways. On my way out, she told me I wasn't welcome back.
Ew.
Ooh, spicy. It keeps going, y'all. I relayed this story to my friends today, and the response was mixed. A couple people told me she was trying to look out for me in case I did regret the haircut, and that after the past couple years, me walking out may have really hurt her financially. I feel really torn. I don't like conflict, but I really felt like Talia crossed the line when she refused to do my hair the way I wanted. Am I the asshole?
I
What do
feel
you
like
think?
the whole thing's just really dramatic. I feel like the hairdresser was just trying to help her out and be like, "Hey, I get you're going through a breakup. Maybe like let's do a mid in between what you have now and what you want." I would
Yeah.
appreciate that down the road. My hairdresser is always like, "This is crazy. You don't need to do this." And I'll be like, "Diet pink." She's like, "You don't need it." And then I'm like, "Okay, I'm glad I didn't do it."
I do think that if you've been going to someone for a certain amount of years, they know you, they know your personality. So I think it makes sense for her to like give her a heads up, like, "Hey, this is a big chop. This is a big adjustment." So I do think it makes sense for her to do that. The whole not coming back, I think that's a little dramatic. Like, we could have come to a
Or making her
resolution.
pay a fee.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's just like some sort of breakdown in communication
Yeah.
here, because I know I've seen this personally where people come in and they're like buzz it off, like I want it all gone, and then you find out that they're either going through a breakup or a really traumatic time in their life. And you know, even I've been there. Like I remember I was cheated on. My boyfriend cheated on me, and I was like, I'm gonna cut my hair short, which I got a super cute short cut, but in reality, for like how I feel comfortable with myself and how I look, even my curls, it was a big difference for me because my, you guys know there's like some
Right.
shrinkage that happens with like curls, right? So I was like, and I was not like loving that look either, so I would have appreciated, some conversation around it. I think this individual, we don't have her name, I think Talia, she probably could have handled that conversation maybe like a little more gentle, like, hey, what's going on in your life? Are you having some big changes? And it sounds like this client maybe didn't appreciate like her acting like she knew everything that was like going on and telling her like, oh, no, like this is what we're gonna do. So maybe there could have been a conversation, and maybe this client would have said like, no, actually, like I've wanted this haircut for years, and like I'm trying to step out as like a brand new me after this breakup, and I just think this is gonna hit the nail on the head, so
Exactly. Yeah.
what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think the client is an asshole at all. I kind of think the stylist is like, I mean, to say like, oh, is this breakup hair? Even like joking, like instantly that puts like the client like on the defensive and feeling like uncomfortable and vulnerable, because it is, but like that doesn't mean like the choice is any less valid. Yeah, I don't think, and for them to like refuse to do it, like it's totally respectable to say like, oh, this may be not the best look for your shape and your hair type, but like to say I'm not going to do it, I feel like that's weird, because
harsh.
Is that any different than like you're gonna lose that client if you like refuse to do it and they want it? Like,
Yeah.
Do they have something like, waivers that people can sign when they're going to an extreme? Is that a thing?
Well, I've had waivers. Like
Yeah.
we worked at places where we did
Yeah.
waivers for like crazy color corrections and stuff like that, where we're
Any
using
sort of,
like,
aggressive
lighting.
stuff.
Think of like if you're putting a tattoo on your face, like you can't get mad at me when you're done with it.
Yeah.
So
I think it's more just like you don't want to do, as a provider or stylist, you don't want to do something and then know that the client's going to regret it. So I'm sure it came from a place of like love and like wanting to do something good, but you also have to give them the desired result that they want, even if you don't agree with it. Like you could not like someone's preferred color or cut or whatever it may be, but you still have to theoretically be like, okay, this is what they want.
Yeah, like at what point do you like give the client what they want, and like versus like running the risk of actually like losing them.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because I think even like where I found it to be inappropriate was like, even though they've known each other for a couple years now and they chat and everything, but her bringing up like her sister's wedding, the graduation and stuff like that, like I agree with the client that is none of her business. Like
right.
if somebody tried to tell me like, oh, you have this going on in your life, like you shouldn't be doing that. Like for example, I just had a baby. If someone's like, oh, you're a new mom, like you should leave it long so you can like throw it up in a bun, I'd be like, cut it all off just
Right.
because you said
Yeah.
that. I'm going to prove you wrong, So like I said, how I started this off, I do think it was the communication, like how people are communicating with each other. Because I do think they could have had a simple conversation about like, hey, I really love this look. Here's a bunch of different people who look so amazing in this look. I think they have a similar look to me. I love
Mhm.
this. And maybe she wanted to let her have some fun with it, because that is something I've talked about with people. Like we're like, hey, if you're going to chop it all off, have some fun with it on the way up, because there's so many different looks that you can hit
try
that
it
like,
out.
yeah, that you might not like. So like if I were going to chop off all my hair, like I maybe would do a long bob and like go all the way up. My younger sister did that, where she went to like a pixie, but she kept going shorter and shorter, but had that fun with it, like when she had like a little bit of lane. So I think that's a totally different conversation, where it's like,
Yeah.
hey, like since you're going to cut it all off, like why don't we try like some of these other
Right.
looks on the way up, right? Versus it being like, oh no, you are making an insane decision because you're
Right.
like unstable right now, like going through a breakup. And I think that's like
That's
what
the
came
part
off
that-
like
that
in this
hurts,
moment. Yeah.
She made it very personal versus
Right.
like, let me recommend something different because I think this might work better for you. So yeah, I agree with that for sure.
And I feel like the cancellation fee is just,
yeah,
it makes it feel like, okay, so you're friends enough to tell her like, hey, I'm not going to do this, but then you're going to pull like, oh, but if you're not going to get a service, you have to pay this fee. I feel like you can't, that's not fair.
Right. Because she refused to do the service.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's like,
if you're not going to get the cut that I want you to get, you're going to have to pay a cancellation fee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which feels weird.
Sounds toxic. I don't like it.
Yeah, I don't like that either.
Find a new stylist.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there actually was an update on this one. So turns out she got her hair cut. I browsed through Instagram under the hairstylist in my area and found a stylist that does a lot of pixie cuts. My haircut was yesterday and the experience was so positive. My stylist was amazing. She was so excited to cut my hair and I'm in love with the final result. I did not leave any reviews or complaints about Talia. It's not my style to try and find some kind of revenge. I just wanted the haircut. LOL.
Good.
Aw.
Good for her.
I know. Good for her. I wonder, like, where's Talia now? Where are you, girl?
Maybe she just was really bad at pixie cuts and she was like, I know I'm going to mess it up.
Oh.
So I can't do it.
Yeah, not everyone can do it. Not everyone can do that.
Talia, if you're out there, let us know what happened.
Yeah.
Why do
We
you
want to
hate
hear your
pixie
side of it,
cuts?
Talia.
Right.
Write in, please.
Okay. I think someone else should read the next one.
Do you want me to read
Yeah,
it?
Come on, Med Spa.
Oh, yeah, this is Med Spa. Of course I'm going to read it.
Okay.
I, 23 female, have been interested in getting lip filler for a while now. I've always hated my lips since I feel like they are too small for my other features on my face, and I used to get made fun of because my lip size throughout school. I constantly see before and after pictures of lip filler on social media, and I decided I might as well go through with it since I have enough money saved up and I just want to feel a little bit better about myself. Keep in mind, I have yet to even book any sort of consultation since I want to have an idea of what to ask for before I do. Recently, I've seen a TikTok on my For You page with an influencer who had the most perfect lips. I won't name any names out of privacy, but they are pretty well known in the beauty industry world. She was showing off some new lipsticks she got sent from a company, and her lips looked perfect. You could tell she had gotten work done, but they were the perfect size, shape, and a gorgeous top to bottom lip ratio. I commented something like, hey, if you don't mind me asking, how much filler did you get and what did you ask for? I was wanting to get some as well, and yours look beautiful. And then went on about my day awaiting a response. This was like 2 days ago. Just yesterday, I got a reply, but it wasn't what I expected. She said something along the lines of how rude it was to ask such a question, and I was obviously never taught manners since you don't ask stuff like that. I can no longer view the reply since she blocked me as of today. And one by one, her followers began to chime in saying how offensive I was being and that I'm just jealous. All I wanted was an idea of what she asked for. I didn't even bother replying since most of the comments came off like they thought I was being sarcastic, but the majority of people commenting thought I was an for saying such a thing. I don't think it was offensive to ask a question about filler since it isn't frowned upon and it's quite common nowadays, but others seem to disagree. Am I the for asking an influencer about their filler in the comment section?
I have a lot to say about this.
Do you? Let's
Yes.
hear it.
Because I think for someone that has not received filler, aka myself, I would not know what kind of questions to ask. So it could just be not ignorance, but just not knowing, you just don't know. So you're asking to get, an opinion so you know exactly what to ask for when you get to the med spa that they're going to, So she's not that.
I mean, I don't think she's an but I also just don't think it's like most people aren't gonna in their comment section like publicly say like, oh, I got this work done if they're not already sharing it. Like if she's not posting videos about her injectables, she's probably not open about it. And just from a med spa perspective, I just could not stand when patients would come in or clients would come in and say, I want to get exactly what this person got, because it just doesn't work the same for everybody. Like you have to see what's a good fit for you and what your injector thinks you need. So I get where she's coming from. I don't think she's I think it's just how social media works. And
You think her question should go to a professional and not an influencer. That makes sense.
I feel bad. I honestly feel the opposite. Like she doesn't know. And then you're an influencer. Everything that you have on, even if she doesn't promote it, she knows that it's a filler. The influencer knows that it's a filler. Like the nice thing to do would have been, you know what, I actually don't know, but go to the med spa and find out. Like talk to a consultant about, like, like it's not, I don't know. I think she was being a little harsh.
I don't know. I think it's always best to be transparent about those things. And it's clearly, she didn't say, I don't have filler. She said, that's rude. You shouldn't ask about it.
Yeah.
Which is like a dead giveaway.
Right.
Like, hey, we know you got it now.
And yeah, maybe it's just a thing about like, she shouldn't be looking on social media for this. She should be asking, like, why does she need to go on social media before she goes for a consultation? Like, that's what a consultation is for.
Right.
It's true. So I'll admit, so I'm like, I feel like I'm like caught between the two, because I agree, like, we shouldn't be looking at like social media and like influencers to give us like any kind of advice. But, you know, for example, I told you both, I don't know if you knew this, Daniel, but I've been suffering from terrible like TMJ, right? And I recently did some Botox in my masseters to like release that tension. I was in so much pain, and I don't think it's going to necessarily be like a regular thing that I'm doing, but I needed it in that moment because it was just so intense. Yeah. Apparently, it's something that happens after you give birth, very common when your hormones are kind of balancing out. I learned that through social media. You know, I learned that through, you know, some influencers out there. And again, I didn't go to the comments. I didn't ask those people questions. I went to professionals to get the advice. I talked to my dentist. I talked to like folks in the med spa. I talked to friends who've experienced it, a lot of it. But, you know, I wouldn't have like really thought about that as a solution if it wasn't introduced to me through like social media, which I think is like very obvious. Everyone needs to be doing everything on social media because that's how you can attract new clients, because that's exactly like what happened with me. It's definitely a place where we can like learn about that stuff. And to Daniel's point, I do agree. Like for example, like anytime I have something that isn't mine, if I've had acrylic nails to like fake lashes and someone compliments me, I'm like, it's fake, girl. Let me tell you where to go get it. You know, like here's where I did it. Like immediately, like, and that's me. And I think I would be the same. Like if I were to, you know, get any type of work done, if someone complimented it, I think I would have the same, you know, approach to it. But I understand that's not everyone. You know, some people get very like, no, like, you know, and listen, we do these things because we're insecure about them, right? And we want to feel secure. So when someone like points out like, hey, that was like your insecurity, you fixed it, like tell me about it, it might be like picking at a scab a little bit, you know. So.
I'm happy you said that, because my next thought was, why is there like a stigma around not necessarily sharing what work you've had done? I think, and I'm the same way as you, like if somebody's like, oh, your hair's pretty, I'm like, I bought it, like it's not mine.
Here's where you can buy it too.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, like, what is the stigma around it? But when you bring up insecurity, that makes perfect sense, because people don't necessarily want to have that, you know, focus on them when it's something they were trying to fix. But I guess it just depends on, you know, that person and their feeling.
Honestly, like with the plastic surgery world, and with that, I think injectables just became naturally in the same kind of breath of people didn't want their husbands to know. When it like first started, like Botox, it was very much kept quiet because generally wives were like, I don't want my husband to know I'm spending money on this, and he doesn't think it's worth it, or he doesn't want me to look like fake or overdone. Like that's honestly, I think the most common thing is people don't want their significant others, especially like straight males, to know, because for some reason there's like this disdain towards it. And I think now more people are open about it, but there are some people that are very private about it. They don't want anybody to know that they've had injectables. Like I've worked in the industry, I'm totally like, oh yeah, this is Botox. Like I've had it done. If it's something that is offered, I've probably had it done. But there are people that like don't even tell their kids, their husbands, their sisters. Like they're very much like, oh, no one can know. And I feel like in the other aspects of the beauty industry, like hair, makeup, nails, everyone's like very willing to share and be like, oh, this is what I ask for, this is what I do. So I feel like it is changing and people are more transparent. But I agree, like Shanalie said, like you should see it on social media, and like it's a great way to market yourself, but like you still need to go into your provider, whoever's doing your skin, your hair, your nails, and be like, this is what I like, you're the expert, like tell me what I need to get these results. Like I wouldn't go into my hairstylist and be like, I want this formula on my color, and I want like this dilution of
Right.
lightener and volumizer or whatever it is. Like, you just show them what you want and they're like, okay, I see the idea, this is what I recommend. So I don't think either of them are really per se, but I definitely think the influencer could have been more open or been like, if you don't want to admit it, just say you don't have them. Just be like, they're natural, I guess. I don't know.
Or
Yeah.
don't respond.
Yeah, I think she's
Yeah,
a
just
little
don't
rough.
acknowledge it.
She
Don't
was a little
block.
rough on someone
Like-
who was a follower, you know, like,
Yeah.
and you know, I know on Instagram or, you know, any social media where there's like a following, like, those are your fans, right? Like, these are people who look up to you
Yeah.
or they're looking to your content for something. You're satisfying some sort of need. So yeah, that's the sad part where she like immediately like
It's
cut her
giving
off.
insecurity.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she
Yes.
could
It's
have
major.
yeah, she could have educated her, but like, hey, you know, that's actually a really personal question to ask. I know my life is very public, but that's a very personal question to ask. Like, if you're interested in doing that for yourself, I highly recommend going to your local med spa and things
Yeah.
like that. Like, I do think there was like a nice like marketing PR like answer
Totally.
that she
Right.
probably could, you know.
Like, she
She
could
could
have
have
even
plugged
messaged her
her.
privately. and
Exactly.
been like,
Totally.
Hey.
Everyone's human. Like, everyone's going to make mistakes, just like both of these people did. But I do think it's like, I don't think either one of them is
yeah.
to be honest. I think, you know, it's one
Yeah.
of those unfortunate situations. All right, I have a question for everyone. What do you think about clients asking their colorist for their formula?
I mean, I just don't really see, like, clearly they're just going to take it and be like, can I go to somebody that does it for cheaper or somebody else and be like, can you do the same exact thing? And it's not going to turn out the way they want it to because it's an art form. You can't just
Absolutely.
take that and translate it to the same exact thing.
Yeah, I think the same. They're only asking to give it to somebody else. They're not keeping
Unless,
it for
like, maybe
themselves.
they're
Like,
a
there's nothing they're going to do
stylist.
with it.
And they're like, if they're in the industry and they're like, hey, I really like this and I want to use this on my clients, or like, I love this, what'd you do? But if you're not in the industry, there's really no reason to need to know.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I think sometimes people do it. I heard it a lot when like somebody was like traveling and they
Mhm.
like couldn't get back. But again, like if you're going to see like a capable colorist, like they should like they're talented. They know.
Be able to formulate.
Don't
Yeah,
need
they
their
can
own.
formulate.
Yeah,
They know
yeah.
what they're doing. They don't need that. Like it really comes, I think, from a client who's like, again, like very insecure about like their color, and they think that if it like is like a shade different, like they're not going to be happy. They're not going to feel like beautiful or themselves with it.
Right. I've seen it in a lot of different ways, where people have been traveling, where we've been a part of that, where and that's like someone's going to be gone for the entire summer. Like, we're going to give this person their base formula and make sure they're taken care of. They're a great, loyal client. There's a lot of trust involved in that, where
Yeah.
we don't even like think twice about it. But somebody actually put it to me the best way, and they're like, when you go to a fine dining experience and you like have a dish that you love, do you walk into the kitchen and ask the chef for the recipe? You wouldn't even dream of it.
No.
Right?
They'd laugh
Right.
at you.
They would be like, get out of here,
Right.
pay the bill and get out of here. Right. So it's funny how people cross those boundaries so often in the self-care industry, like with hair especially. And I think some of it, it's like comes from like this like lack of education and like respect and like
Mhm.
what they're actually doing. And there's like a true science to those formulations.
Exactly.
Like the color wheel is like no joke, and figuring out how to cancel out certain tones and bring out others, and really achieving that on so many different heads of hair. It's very impressive, you know.
Right.
And I do agree that a lot of times it's like, oh, I'm going to take this formula and I'm going to go to the person down the block who's a lot cheaper than my like nice high-end salon or whatever it is. So I do think it is like very problematic behavior. So if you're listening and you've ever thought about asking someone for a formula, please do not do it.
Well, it's kind of almost along the same lines of like price haggling. Like when clients
Mhm.
come in and they're like,
Mhm.
well, can you do it for this price? It's like you wouldn't go to a 5-star restaurant
Mhm.
and be like, well, can I actually get it for like, this is the price that someone else quoted me. Can you do it for that price? Like, you just pay whatever your bill is when it comes. And I almost feel, when I get my hair done, like I just say like whatever you need to do. And stylists have given like price ranges before, but there's even people that are like, it has to be this amount, it can't go over. And I feel like that's so like it's almost that like lack of respect for the artist
they're
that you're
doing.
seeing.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, as that artist, I would take it as a compliment because I'm doing my thing. Like, I'm kicking ass and you want to duplicate this, but I would still say no.
Right. Absolutely. Got to protect the proprietary information.
Exactly.
You know.
This episode is brought to you by Boulevard, the first and only client experience platform purpose-built for appointment-based self-care businesses. Built to relieve stress, not create it, Boulevard is designed to help you elevate your client experience and infuse simplicity and beauty into your day. To help you enjoy all the amazing features Boulevard offers, today's listeners can save 10%. To claim your offer, head over to joinblvd.com/podcast.
All right. Do we want to jump into some client horror stories?
My favorite type of scary stories. A stylist I used to work for suffered a heart attack while at work, and an ambulance had to be called. One of his clients who was waiting to be taken asked me if he would have time to just trim her fridge before the paramedics came.
I cannot.
I think that this is insanity. I cannot imagine looking at a person being like, yeah, you're having a heart attack. Do you think you could just like trim me up really quick before you get into the ambulance? Because if I don't have my trim, I'll die.
People are selfish. That's the most
She's like,
selfish
just the
thing.
bangs.
Yeah, just a fringe trim. That's all.
Horrible.
Get out.
Get out.
Leave.
Yeah.
Never come back.
That's when you shouldn't even like have to think about firing a client, where you're like, hey, like, yes, somebody like outside of this business can trim your bangs. Like,
Yeah.
please
Right.
go. Yeah. Which also is like, to be honest, I don't know if anyone's ever been in the room and someone's having an heart attack and an ambulance is coming. When the ambulance is like coming into a building, I can't think about my hair.
No,
I'm
I
Right.
would be like,
There's
What's
a
going on?
lot going
I'm
on.
like rubbernecking like crazy, right?
yeah, I would be like
Rubbernecking.
emergency. I would be like fight or flight. Like, what's going on? What can I do?
Right.
Right. How can I help? How can I
Do I
move
need to
things
do
out the way?
CPR?
Especially
Right.
your hairstylist, because you know how like the folks that do any of my services, like I know
Oh.
about their lives, know about their kids,
Right.
like know about their partners, all this stuff. And if I saw somebody who like I was connected to like that having a heart attack, I'd be on the floor like trying to help. Like
I'd be
Right.
distraught
Like,
if
what
I
can
saw
I
my
do?
stylist.
Yeah,
I'd be
so-
like, that is my longest term relationship. I'm gonna die. Like, what will I do without her? I'd be giving her CPR.
Yeah, no, literally.
I'd be on the floor like, we're gonna save you.
Right.
Yeah, agreed.
So I don't even think that you don't have to give good communication. I think you just tell that client to get out.
Yeah.
Leave. My grandma was in the hospital passing away, and I had a client calling and getting upset that my coworker wouldn't give her my personal phone number to see if I'd come in just for her. After I went back to work, she came in and while in my chair said, I hope you understand why I wanted them to call you or give me your number. I just needed my hair done. I said, oh, funny, because I needed my grandma not to die. It was an awkward appointment after that.
You know, these kind of stories are these.
Make you feel
I don't
crazy.
want to. Yeah. It's like, do I need to make a different career move at this point? Because people are. That's like, you want to spend the last moments with your grandparents. That's horrible.
Yeah, you know what? There's that saying where it's like 90% of your clients will be amazing,
Mhm.
lovely, never argue about price, and they'll just do everything. They'll book, they'll pre-book, all the things. And there's 10% that will drive you crazy,
Right.
and that 10% will take up 90% of your time.
Oh, yeah.
And I think this is just like the perfect example of that, right? Where
Yeah.
people just don't get that we are people who have lives, and people like our grandmothers are what make us be so wonderful, like behind the chair or
Mhm.
you know, behind the desk, whatever it is, right? So yeah, no, it's really sad and kind of disrespectful.
Very
You know?
disrespectful. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've all dealt with like really entitled clients before, and it's just I don't get it. Like, you are not entitled to get a service like unless you have an appointment and you're paying for it. Like, there's no other situation in which like somebody needs to make time for you
Mm-hmm.
if they're not okay with that. Like, if you're sick and somebody like wants to get in, or if you're fully booked and they think like they're deserved to get in, like,
And you're not entitled
Yeah.
to have that access of having a personal phone number and being like
Yeah, the personal
reaching
thing.
out to
Yeah.
your provider, your stylist, and being like, I want to get in right now.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I agree. I think it's a little bit, I mean, listen, we're in America at the end of the day where people go to work sick all the time. So I do think like
Unfortunately.
we have some of our like
That
cultural
mentality.
things like working against us, you know, some of the cultural norms. You guys know, I'm like, if you are sick, if you're even like slightly sick, stay home, you know, make sure
Yes.
you're 100% before you can handle people or anything, because I don't think folks really understand how much willpower it takes to like be on.
Yeah.
The way a hairstylist, the like a med spa injector, like anyone behind the front desk. Oh my gosh, the front desk, right? Like you have to be very on. And you know, there's times where, you know, you and I worked the desk together where we had like stuffy noses and we were like talking like this, right? And people would call it out. Our clients would be like, oh, like you're sick. You know, the ones who like cared about us. And then there were folks who were like, yeah, book my appointment. Keep going. You know,
Right.
so I do think it's a little bit of like society too that makes people think like, oh, you're just sick. Oh, you're just going to a funeral. Like, come on.
Like, jump back
work me
at
in.
it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that has a lot to do with like people even thinking of like when you are trying to mourn, like what's that
Ugh.
amount of time until you get
So
back into it?
rough.
And I do think in
always
America
that's
it's the
so
same.
crazy that
Right? Like
we're
it's
just,
like quick.
okay, take one day off and then
Right.
come
Not
back.
me.
Like,
Not me,
I
honey.
feel like we're the only
Mm-mm.
culture or
I
not.
know.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Shanalie is the only boss that I've ever
I was
had
just
that's
about
ever
to
been
say
like,
that.
you can take as much time as you need.
Yes.
Other than that,
If
they've
you
been
need
like,
to
when's the
heal.
funeral?
You taught me like
No.
healthy work habits.
Yeah, you're a person first.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and like I'm not like, I know like you both said this where it's like, oh, like you're so good at this, and like I don't think it's about me being so good. I think I'm just being a person. I'm being a human, a good human.
Right.
And I think the others are like doing a disservice to the rest of the folks, you know, because like I hate those sayings that are like, leave your at the door and like come in and like, you know, just be this like blank person and don't worry about your lives. I just don't think that's like real life. Like if I'm going through
not.
something, like you're gonna feel it at work. You're gonna
Yeah.
see it in like I'm a fun loving person. I'm always cracking jokes. Like if I'm not cracking that joke, people are gonna feel that, right? And that's okay. You can't be happy all the time. You're not going to be healthy all the time. And I think we need to make it very normal in our businesses, especially as like leaders, owners, managers, and setting that tone. I know we had like an awesome episode with Sandra where we talked a little bit
Yes.
about that, our lovely therapist that was on with us. But it starts from the top. Like we have to make sure at the positions that we're sitting at as owners and managers that we are driving that type of culture, because
Yes.
the other side of it is very negative. There's burnout and people end up really angry,
Oh,
right?
yes.
Like they haven't taken care
100%.
of their own lives. They haven't taken care of their own bodies. They're sick. They're going through
Right.
different things. And you have them over here doing like bang trims.
Or even
know?
the massage world. Like, can you imagine having to then go and like massage someone
Oof.
for an hour, 90 minutes with that type of energy already inside of you? Like, it's not
Well,
gonna.
if I was a client, I wouldn't want my provider or like my professional having to perform a service
Right.
if they aren't mentally like okay,
Because that
because
can
I know
pass
I'm
on to
probably
them.
not gonna get the best service. It's
Mhm.
not
Right.
gonna look the best. It's not gonna feel the best.
And that could be passed on. I do believe energy can be passed on to people, especially if you're
Agreed.
very intimate and touching. And, you know, that can be passed on to another person.
Oh,
and I don't want that
100%.
bad juju. Get that out of here. Like,
Yeah.
no, I don't want that.
Yep. Yeah, it's a powerful thing.
Yeah.
Okay, last one.
'Kay.
I had one client ask me, if you die, who's going to do my hair? This is days before I went in to have an emergency C-section with my firstborn.
Ew, she probably laughed after she said it also. Like, this is funny.
I know. I put that one in there because, like, you know, when you're like that pregnant, you're already thinking about
Oh,
like
you would rate
everything
the-
that's going wrong.
Like, you're close to that. Yeah, I can't even.
I was like, wow. So, which I know she was probably like joking, you know, but it just goes to show that sometimes like we do have some clients that don't realize that we are people first.
Yeah, humans.
Yeah.
This reminds me of something that like we've talked about a lot of, like, if you are to die, a lot of employers, like, you think that they would be distraught and that it would change the entire business, but really it's like they would replace you the next day. Like they would try and fill your spot. And so that's the whole thing of like when you're like, I can't call out sick, like I can't take time off, I can't do this, I can't do that. Like you have to realize that your employers are looking at you as not always a human, but as like you're providing a job and filling a role. And if you weren't there, they would just replace you. So it's kind of like that. You just get a new hairstylist. Next, on to the next.
Now we just get another one.
Thank you. Next.
I feel like I've heard the kind of from the opposite perspective too, like as an employee from the employer, like if you died tomorrow, like how would I like do the things that you do, which again is like the same thing, which is like they're not really thinking about like the trauma of you dying. They're thinking about, well, how would the role get filled if you're not here? How is my business going to function?
Or am I going to have like start doing your job for you because you're not here anymore?
I'd love to hear it because I know we've heard this. I feel like you've heard this. I feel like we've talked about this. But Skya, have you ever been told like, okay, you need to like document everything because if you get hit by a bus tomorrow, I need to be able to hand over a book to someone of how you do everything, and they just need to do it. I'm like, did you just hear what you said? Like, you're like, if I die, first things first, how do you book appointments?
100%.
You know?
Horrible.
I think like the most telling thing is like if you've ever been in the role of being like a key employee, or you've had a key employee that's like does so much and they ask for a raise, or they're like, hey, this is what I want to be fulfilled in my role. And the owner of the business says no, and they're like, okay, they stay for a little while, but then when they go to leave or quit, the owner's like, well, just give them whatever they want. We can't lose them. And it's like, so what happened like 4 months ago when they asked for a raise and you said no, but now when they're threatening to leave and you realize like, oh shit, this is going to be terrible. You're like, anything they want, I'll do it, whatever they need. And it's that's kind of like, that's a sign of weakness.
Yeah. That's weakness, and I would still leave. Like, F that. No, I'm leaving no matter what.
Same.
Yeah.
Well, amazing, everyone. Thank you so much for your awesome feedback on all this cool content. More to come. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.